In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to walk you through exactly how I took a client from $70,000 a month to $170,000 a month in just 48 days. That's $100,000 in new monthly revenue added in just under 2 months. And here's the thing that makes this interesting. We barely touched the ad spend. We barely changed the funnel. No new offer, no rebranding, no magic marketing strategy. Every single dollar of that growth came from fixing the sales team and the systems around it. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through every decision we made in the order we made them, including the uncomfortable ones, of course, like firing people in like literally 24 hours. Because I think the most valuable thing that I can give here isn't just the what, it's the why behind every single decision I made. So you can apply the same to your own team. So let's get into it. When I first came in, as I mentioned, the business was doing around 70,000 a month in revenue. To break that down, approximately 50,000 of that was coming directly from organic, word of mouth, existing relationships, other things of that nature. It's great, it's solid, but ultimately it's not scalable. The other 20,000 then was coming directly from ad spend. And that 20,000 in paid revenue was literally just matching the ad spend. It wasn't losing money, but it wasn't really adding anything to the business from a bottom line perspective, of course. I've got a business here that has a decent organic base, a paid channel that isn't profitable, and a sales team that's supposed to be converting all of this into revenue. The first thing that I do when I come into a business is look at the data before I touch anything, because the data tells you where the actual problem is. And in this case, the data told me something very, very quickly, very clearly. There was exactly 3 closers on this team when I first came on, right? One closer was closing at 50%, and the other 2 were less than 15% close rate, right? So immediately I'm thinking, what is going on here? So I jump on a call with each and every single closer and I find out what is the difference between all of these people. As you can see here again, I reviewed 2 calls of each and every single closer and I identified very, very quickly the weak fundamentals. And the thing was, all of these 3 closers were getting routed the exact same leads. Same traffic source, same funnel, same quality of prospect, same time. There was nothing different about each and every single lead that these closers were getting. And this is one of the most common misdiagnoses that I see in businesses when numbers are low. The instinct is always to just blame the leads. Either that quality isn't good enough, the ads aren't working, the funnel isn't converting. And sometimes that's true. But in this case, one closer on the exact same lead quality was closing at 50%. So the leads were fine. The issue was sitting on the other side of the phone. And when I looked at these other 2 closers who were below 15%, I noticed that their skill level was way off the guy who was closing at 50%. The thing was, when I looked at those 2 calls, they had significant skill gaps in core skills. So we're talking about, basic discovery, objection handling, maintaining frame, creating urgency, the foundations of closing. Everything that they were doing was extremely weak. And I had to make a call. It's either, do I invest in number of weeks trying to bring these 2 closers up to the standard that they needed to be, or do I make a hard decision now? And clearly I chose the hard decision. I got rid of these 2 team members literally within 24 hours. And I want to spend a minute on this because I know it's the part that makes people uncomfortable, and I think it's worth explaining my thinking properly. When you have a closer underperforming at 15% on actual qualified leads every single day, pretty much every single day that they're on closing calls is a day of leads just being wasted. Your marketing team, your ad spend, your setter team, all of it is working to get prospects onto the calendar with these closers, and then the closers have extremely poor fundamentals, and it's literally just burning through those leads at a 15% conversion rate when the same leads could be closing at 50%. The cost of actually keeping that person on the team isn't just like their salary, their commission, the money that they're making. It's every deal that they didn't close. It's every lead that went cold. It's the momentum lost on the team when the numbers aren't moving whatsoever. And 1 to 3 weeks of retraining, even if it works, which realistically it's not guaranteed, it is 1 to 3 weeks of continued underperformance in a business doing $70,000 a month and trying to scale. That's not a cost you can have, because you have ads literally at break-even ROAS not making you a penny. And the principle I operate at is very simple. It's A players are always better than trying to fix than C players. Get the right people on the team and your results literally can change overnight. And that's not a philosophy. It's literally exactly what happened here. As soon as that decision was made to let those 2 closers go, I immediately shifted focus to recruitment. I was not looking for people that I need to train from literally the ground up. I was looking for people who already had the skill set to come in and perform at a high level literally straight away on the first call. People who'd been in high ticket sales, who understand the fundamentals, who didn't need weeks of handholding to get to a decent close rate KPI. So I brought in 2 new reps literally within the next 24 to 48 hours of letting those 2 people go, and both of them literally started closing at about 40% from day 1. And what you can see here within the screenshot is this was just a couple of days at the start of December, these guys were closing at 70% in contrast to what was previously 15%. So there's a massive gap right there. That single change, removing 2 underperformers and replacing them with 2 A-tier reps, was responsible for a massive increase of the revenue jump on its own before we'd even literally touched anything else. Now, the system infrastructure is the next part to this, which is extremely important. While the talent side was being sorted, I turned my attention to the infrastructure the team was operating on, because even the best sales team in the world will underperform if the systems around them are holding them back. So the first thing I looked at was the CRM. The team was running on GHL, Go High Level. And look, GHL has its place. It's solid. It's decent for like an all-in-one tool. But for managing a sales team at this level, when you're trying to do multiple 6 figures per month, in terms of tracking pipeline, management follow-up, reporting on closer performance, it is subpar compared to Close. And with that as well, Close is built specifically for sales teams. The pipeline visibility is better. The reporting is better. The activity tracking is more accurate. And when you're managing multiple closers and setters, you need to know exactly what's happening in the pipeline at any given moment. Close gives you that in a way GHL simply just doesn't. Now, I knew switching CRMs mid-operation was going to be a significant change. Done poorly, a CRM migration can cause, a big fuck up, but leads falling through the cracks, data getting lost, the team was losing momentum. So we brought in an ops team specifically to handle the migration and make sure the transition was completely smooth. No disruption to the sales team whatsoever, no leads lost, clean handover from one system to the other, literally done in a week. Now, thereafter, the previous team before we came in were handling things on Discord, which is completely subpar to Slack. It's way more structured. It has better automations. It is built for communication. So with that, we moved everything over to Slack. And as you can see here, this is an example of what one of our Slack channels would typically look like. We had, of course, structured channels, clear naming conventions, dedicated channels for book calls, no-shows, successful payments, team updates, training, everything organized and easy to find. The speed and clarity of communication on a sales team has an extreme direct impact on performance. For example, when a setter books a call, the closers need to know about it immediately. When there's a no-show, the team needs to react fast. They need to be on that no-show straight away. When there's a training update or a script change, everyone needs to see it at the same time, and Slack makes all of that faster and more structured. Discord just doesn't. It's not like the most glamorous change, of course, ever, but it's the kind of thing that compounds over the course of a week, a month, a quarter, whatever that looks like. It's just faster communication for your team. It outperforms a disorganized one every single time. Now, alongside this, how the team was actually getting managed was really, really bad previously. So before, the previous manager was taking like 1 to 2 calls a week tops with the team. And when you have sales reps, especially that are underperforming, 1 to 2 calls a week is not enough. It's not going to cut it. So what we did is we implemented daily accountability systems. We had literally daily team meetings with every single team member. We had 2 trainings a week paired with setters and closers. We had weekly one-on-ones with each and every single sales rep on Fridays. And this would allow us to sit down with each person, go through their personal numbers, identifying what's improving, what's still a gap, what focus needs to be for their following week. And this is where you ultimately catch problems early. This is where you keep people motivated. This is where you make sure no one is allowed to drift into doing nothing, basically. The principle behind all of this is fairly straightforward. It's daily accountability drives daily improvement, and daily improvement compounded over weeks and months is what separates high performing sales teams from the lower performing ones. Now, another very, very important change we made was the booking process. Before we came in, when a prospect booked a call directly after watching the VSL, they could schedule that call within 3 to 5 days out, which is obviously not ideal whatsoever. And if you don't know, let me explain why that's a problem. You got to remember, this is cold traffic. These are people who watched a video ad, got interested, and taken action. Their emotional engagement with that offer is in the highest the moment that they book, right? 3 to 5 days later, the emotion has faded, the urgency is gone, life gets in the way, and so you end up with low show rates, low intent on the call, and the closer is trying to resell someone on something they've pretty much half forgotten about. So what we did is we came in and we changed that booking window from 3 to 5 days to literally 48 hours max. You book your call today, your call is actually either today, tomorrow, and that's pretty much it. And then we changed what happened immediately after someone booked in. Instead of just sending a confirmation email and hoping someone would show up, we had setters on the phone immediately after they booked. Not eventually, literally immediately. So calling the prospect, confirming the call, building rapport, making sure they were prepared hired and committed for that closing call. If a prospect didn't answer the phone and couldn't be reached, we canceled their slot and replaced it with then a more responsive lead within that 24-hour timeline. Because a slot sitting on a closer's calendar taken by a low intent prospect is literally, it's worse than anything ever. And at least an empty slot doesn't waste the closer's time and state of mind. Now, the result of this change was honestly the most significant thing ever. The show rates went up way more, call quality went up, the closers went from averaging 1 to 3 live calls a day to actually having a full high quality calendar. And when a closer is taking more live calls, ultimately it allows them to get into what I like to call flow state as a closer when you're actually taking so many calls every single day. Now, let's talk about the setter side of this organization, which was, as we see here, what we call the SDR machine. When we first came in, there was literally only one setter on the team, and the speed to lead was quite bad because we were getting leads from America and Australia. So you can imagine, obviously, one sales rep isn't going to cover that entire time zone because it's literally they're in two different places. And you got to remember, speed to lead is one of the most important metrics in a high ticket sales operation. And so when someone watches a VSL and fills out a form to book a call, their intent is at its peak at that exact moment. So every hour that passes between them taking action and then a setter reaching out, their intent drops by so much. And by the time you get to them in the next morning, they moved on mentally, they've spoken to competitors, or they've talked themselves out of it, they got busy, whatever that looks like. One setter trying to cover the US and Australian time zones means leads in certain windows were simply just not being contacted quickly enough, and that's just revenue just walking out the door before it even gets to a closing. So we brought in a full setter team specifically recruited to cover every single time zone. These weren't people we hired and then spent 3 weeks training. They were pre-vetted, pre-trained reps ready to go from the second they got started. So from day one, they were on the phones, they were working leads, and they were performing. Now, again, literally 48 days after we made these changes, we can see the jump from 70,000 a month to 170,000 a month in literally just 48 days. And that was added by not scaling ad spend dramatically, not by rebuilding the funnel, not by launching a new offer, but by fixing the people, fixing the processes, and fixing the systems around the sales team. The paid ROAS improved from literally break even to a 5x ROI on ad spend. So that channel that was previously breaking even became extremely highly profitable. The organic revenue alongside that had a massive increase, given that that appointment setting system converted more of the existing interesting book calls, and obviously the closers were closing at a much higher rate. And that net position of 170,000 a month after ad spend of around $23,000 to $25,000, sales team commission software cost was around $96,000 kept after every single month at a 56% margin for our client. And that is what's possible when the fundamentals are right. Before I go, here are the 4 key things I actually want you to take away from this. The right people beats the more people every single time. One A-tier closer outperforms 3 average ones every time. So do not keep underperformers on the team just because the conversation is uncomfortable or the cost of actually keeping them is higher than the cost of just letting them go. Another very important one, speed equals money, equals revenue, whatever you want to call it, right? Every hour between a lead showing intent and a setter reaching out to them is an hour of wasted time on that lead. So you need to tighten your booking window, get setters on the phone absolutely immediately. And if a lead isn't responding, replace them with a new one who actually is on that calendar. Alongside this, systems beat chaos. Right? CRM, communication, pipeline structure, these aren't, exciting changes, but they compound into significantly better performance over weeks and months. So do not let your team operate on a subpar infrastructure. And daily accountability drives growth, right? One team call a week with a sales team is not good enough. You need to get in front of your people near every single day, right? Review the numbers, run the training, do the one-to-ones. That's what keeps a sales team improving, rather than just drifting off and doing nothing. If you run a sales team or you have an agency, you have an info company, whatever that looks like, and any of what I've walked through today resonates with where you're at, drop a comment below. I read all of them, so I'm happy to give you some specific feedback on what I'd look at first in your specific situation. And if you want to see how we'd apply this framework to your business specifically, the link's in the description. So I'll see you on the next one. Peace.